On October 22, 2013, Colleen Ritzer, a 24-year-old math teacher at Danvers High School in Massachusetts, held an extra help session after school. It was attended by a female student, along with 14-year-old Philip Chism. She was known for always finding time to help her students, one of whom described her as a positive and happy person who made her fall in love with math. Philip Chism was a 9th grade student in Ritzer's freshman class. He moved to Danvers from Tennessee the summer before the school year, after his parents divorced. Their scheduled math class was held from 1 p.m. to 1:55 p.m. in Colleen's classroom, located on the 2nd floor of the high school's 3-story academic wing. Fellow students later recalled that the boy appeared uninterested in the lesson and did not participate in a group activity. Nonetheless, Colleen praised his drawings and diagrams. The school day eventually came to an end, and one student stayed for an extra help session until 2:30 p.m. However, Philip Chism remained there as well. While in the classroom, Colleen asked him about his family, his recent move, and what he missed about Tennessee. However, the topic seemed to annoy him and made him a little nervous, and he only answered the teacher's questions in a low, mumbly tone of voice. Shortly after, Colleen stepped out of the classroom for about 15 minutes to make copies and talk to one of her colleagues. The female student present later said that while Ritzer was away, Chism wrote the classmate's name in Chinese characters on the whiteboard and complimented her drawings. When the math teacher returned to the classroom, she told the students she would have to leave soon. After a few minutes, Colleen and the girl left, while Chism stayed behind. He was expected to meet a teammate on the soccer field at 3 p.m. for an informal practice session, but he never went there. According to the released CCTV footage, at the now somewhat empty school, Colleen Ritzer exited the classroom at 2:54 p.m. and headed for the 2nd floor bathroom. Philip Chism walked out a little later and checked where she was going. He returned to the classroom, pulled the hood over his head, and headed for the same bathroom. The next footage shows him taking out his white gloves and following the teacher inside. About 12 minutes later, the boy leaves the bathroom, walks down the hallway, down the stairs and into the parking lot, where he takes off his blue hoodie. Chism then runs back into the classroom to get his belongings. His head is now covered with a red sweater, and a ski mask also appears shortly after. While he attempted to change his appearance, he encountered several people, both teachers and students. Then a few minutes later, at around 3:15, he was seen dragging a recycling bin along the corridor towards the bathroom. 7 minutes later, he was dragging the apparently heavily loaded bin out of the school, first into the parking lot, and then into the wooded area behind the building. He even passed a man walking his dog. About 7 minutes later, he brought the bin back through the parking lot and returned to the school. Following this, he was just wandering inside the building and only left after 4:30 p.m., then disappeared. His mother, Diana Chism, reported the boy missing during the early evening. At roughly the same time, the math teacher failed to arrive home after school. Her parents were concerned because it was not like Colleen to deviate from her routine without informing them. Shortly after 11 p.m., Danvers police officers discovered the bloody bathroom, the teacher's bag, and then the bloody recycling bin. They also found a pair of sneakers, blood-stained clothes suspended on some brush, and other items near a cross-country trail off the student parking lot at the A wing of the school. The 14-year-old was found by Topsfield police officer Neil Hovey while he was driving south out of the police station towards the area of Salem Road on Old Route 1. He responded to a report of a person walking on Route 1 in Topsfield, approximately 0.4 miles from the police station, and shortly after, he observed a barefoot individual walking north in the southbound lane of the road. The person was spotted on a little bridge that further narrowed the already narrow and darkened highway. At about 12:28 a.m., Officer Hovey activated his blue emergency lights, identified Philip Chism, and transported him to the Topsfield police station. At first, Hovey didn't know about the horrific crime, only that a teenager was missing, so he went into parent mode. Later, however, after searching Chism's backpack, Officer Hovey and DeBernardo discovered, among other items, the victim's wallet and underwear, along with a blood-stained box cutter knife. The handcuffed student was interviewed for 1 hour and 44 minutes, while his mother was also present. When the police asked the boy to help them understand what happened, he mentioned a comment and a trigger word he said the teacher used. Throughout the interview, however, despite many attempts by the officers, Chism refused to divulge what the trigger word that he claimed Colleen said to him was. Around 3 a.m., the body of the 24-year-old teacher was found using the information and map Chism had drawn for police officers. Colleen Ritzer was born on May 13, 1989, in Lawrence, Massachusetts, to Peggy Ritzer and Thomas Ritzer. She grew up in Andover and had two siblings, Laura and Daniel. Colleen was a communicant of St. Augustine Church in Andover and graduated from Andover High School in 2007. She was described as someone who loved her family and gatherings with friends and relatives. Colleen was a wonderful daughter and a perfect big sister. She became Laura's biggest fan and took every opportunity to go to her hockey games. Acquaintances recalled Colleen always thinking of others first. She was a caring woman who never had a single selfish thought. Colleen knew she wanted to be a teacher from a young age and worked diligently to achieve her goal. From as early as 3 years old, she recognized her passion for helping others by observing her preschool teacher inspire her students and broaden their understanding of learning. This experience planted a seed in Colleen that would eventually grow into a deep love for teaching. Following high school, she continued her studies at Assumption College in Worcester, where she graduated magna cum laude in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in math and a minor in psychology with a secondary education concentration. Former colleagues said that teaching wasn't just a profession for her, but also a hobby, because she always tried to find new, innovative, and creative ways to inspire and teach her students, whom she loved. Even in her Twitter profile, she stated, "Math teacher often too excited about the topics I'm teaching." Her motto was, "Every day may not be good, but there is something good in every day." In her free time, Ritzer enjoyed vacationing, cruising, shopping, and making collages. She often went on random trips to undetermined destinations with her friends. Colleen was unanimously adored by everyone. The young high school math teacher was first employed at Hale Middle School in Stowe, Massachusetts, while she pursued a graduate degree at Salem State College. After 1 year, however, she switched to Danvers High School in Danvers, Massachusetts. Philip Chism was born on January 21, 1999, in Clarksville, Tennessee, to Stacy Tremaine Chism and Diana Amanda Chism, and he has a sister, Isabella Christina Chism. He had moved to Danvers with his divorcing mother and sister the summer before the school year in question, which reportedly upset him. Even though he was a junior varsity soccer player at the school, the young man was little known to the others and sometimes described as antisocial. Boston.com wrote that public records show Chism's parents filed for divorce in 2013, and his father's access to his children was to be restricted because of physical abuse, sexual abuse, or a pattern of emotional abuse. The documents also contained assertions that Chism's father was guilty of adultery and cruel treatment of his spouse. Former soccer teammates in Clarksville described Chism as a quiet boy who played a good game on the field and never mentioned any problems at home. Their parents said they saw his mother at games, but had not met his father. Clarksville skateboarders said Chism used to skate with them in a downtown park. William Karpowicz, one of the fellow skaters, recalled that while others lost their tempers when they missed jumps, Chism always stayed mellow. "One of the calmest people I've known. I would never think of him to even get in a fight with somebody," he said. After the body was found, authorities began to examine the school's CCTV, and the student quickly became a suspect. Worth noting that a $71 million renovation of the high school was completed shortly before the tragedy. This included the installation of a new security system and software. However, the operating system and the PC were outdated, making the monitoring difficult. Officer Stephen Baldassari of the Danvers Police, who was assigned to Danvers High School as the student resource officer, was tasked to review the school's CCTV footage. However, when he was about to begin examining the hundreds of cameras, his computer wouldn't boot up, and rebooting the system took so long that he even had time to go to the wooded area to join other Danvers investigators in the search. Baldassare later testified that the cameras were not numbered in any way that would make sense to anyone using them. He also stated that some cameras were colored and some were black and white. There were also allegations that the private cleaning contractor who had been working at the school the afternoon Ritzer was killed might have washed away potentially valuable evidence. Eventually, the available videos, covering corridors, stairwells, parts of the field house, and the outside of the school, confirmed that Chism did not commit the murder out of nowhere, because after arriving at the school on the morning of October 22nd, he was seen packing bags in his locker. In fact, he brought his change of clothes, gloves, and a ski mask with him, as well as a box cutter. It was later revealed that Chism used the latter to rob the math teacher, taking her credit card, license, and underwear. Following the robbery, he raped Colleen, and the autopsy revealed he stabbed her in the neck 16 times with the box cutter, although he claimed he cut Ritzer twice. After the horrific crime, a female student also entered the bathroom, but she only saw someone naked on the floor with several pieces of clothing. She thought someone was changing, so she quickly left. Philip Chism then put the teacher's body inside the bin and took her to the woods. He positioned Ritzer's body near a fence, posed it, and placed items nearby, including his school identification card and a note that read, "I hate you all." At around 3 p.m., a student's parent saw him changing his clothes outside the school's academic wing, by the student parking lot near the A and B wings. He walked towards Endicott Street and smashed his and Colleen's iPhone outside the Hollywood Hits Theater to prevent authorities from GPS tracking. The 14-year-old then used Colleen Ritzer's card to buy a movie ticket at the Liberty Tree Mall AMC Theater, nearly 3 miles away from the high school. After the film, he stole a scuba knife from BJ's Wholesale Club and started walking the dark streets. The sleeves of Philip Chism's sweatshirt were covered in blood when he was arrested, and the teacher's belongings and the bloody cutter were found in his backpack. When asked whose blood was on it, he replied, "It's the girls." He never washed his hands. Massachusetts State Police criminalist Abby Scott testified that she found visible human blood on Chism's left palm. At the time of his arrest, Topsfield officers weren't informed about Colleen's disappearance, so they called the Danvers police station, who were already actively searching for the math teacher. Following that, Officer Joseph DeBernardo asked Chism if he knew where Colleen was. He responded, "She's buried in the woods." There, the authorities found the half-naked body, which the student had covered with leaves, and the hate note was also discovered nearby. During the interview, the boy told detectives about his plan to flee to Canada and the route he would take. He also mentioned that he would take a bridge and a ferry to escape. Investigators said he was introspective, polite, calm, and cooperative throughout the questioning. However, he said he doesn't really have a sense of morals, and, "I'd give you straightforward answers. I'm saying it wouldn't really have an emotional effect on me, or the effect that it was wrong because I don't really believe in morals." Chism claimed Colleen insulted him, and when asked why he took her pants off, he responded that he did so to humiliate her. The Boston Globe reported that prosecutors denied the initial claims that Colleen asked Chism to stay after class to practice his math. They stated that a fellow teacher, Sarah Giaquenta, would testify that Ritzer told her she never asked Chism to stay after class. This would contradict the defense's assertion that Ritzer asked Chism to stay after school and that their conversation triggered Chism to commit the murder. She thought he might just be there to make a connection. She didn't know why he was in her classroom, prosecutor Kate McDougall told the court. Giaquinta eventually testified that she had spoken with Ritzer on the afternoon of her death. After classes had ended for the day, the two met in Ritzer's classroom, where Giaquinta saw 2 of Ritzer's students. The colleague also said that while the conversation was normal, Ritzer had mentioned that she didn't know why the boy was here after school hours. Giaquinta identified the boy as Philip Chism. He was earlier acquitted of a second rape, in which he used a tree branch against her in the woodland, where he dumped her body. Defense lawyers argued that the teacher was already dead. In order for rape to occur, Miss Ritzer has to be alive, or the alleged rape must occur very close in time, almost simultaneously with her death. The fatal wounds occurred in the bathroom, not in the woods where the tree branch was used. Miss Ritzer was not alive, defense attorney Denise Regan said. However, Essex Assistant District Attorney Kate McDougall said that Ritzer still had life in her when she was put in the recycling bin and taken to the woods. McDougall noted that the surveillance footage clearly shows that only Chism's hand was bloody when he left the bathroom, but when he exited the woods, Chism's clothing was blood-soaked. According to court documents, Dr. Anthony Jackson, a psychiatrist on behalf of the defense, testified that the teenager was in the midst of a psychotic event when he committed the crimes. Relying on near-daily mid-trial observations, he concluded that the boy suffered from major depression and a brief transient psychotic episode. The psychotic episode, he opined, involved disorganized behavior, language, and thoughts, impacting the defendant's ability to function. Jackson noted that the defendant showed marked improvement when administered Risperdal, a powerful antipsychotic drug. He did, however, acknowledge on cross-examination that the stress of the trial may have triggered this psychotic event. Dr. Richard G. Dudley, the main expert for the defense, interviewed Chism 7 times between March 2015 and December 2015. In these sessions, which lasted from 2 to 3 hours, Dudley noted that the defendant had a flat affect, mumbled to himself, failed to respond to questions or pay attention, and exhibited disorganized thoughts and auditory hallucinations. Denise Regan said her client had experienced hallucinations since age 10, but that had gone undiagnosed. She said Chism has a psychotic disorder, probably early-onset schizophrenia. The boys' team did not deny that he killed the teacher, but insisted he could not be held responsible for his actions. However, Kate McDougall rejected the defense's argument. She said Chism carefully planned the killing and even brought gloves and a box cutter to school. He attacked Ritzer in the bathroom for 11 minutes until another student walked in and interrupted the assault, McDougall said. Chism then took Ritzer into the woods in a recycling barrel, where he finished what he started. Philip Chism isn't mentally ill. There is not one single person in this courtroom who wants to believe that a 14-year-old boy could have done this and not be crazy. But doing something so awful does not make you crazy, she said. The Boston Globe reported that during her closing argument, McDougall played CCTV footage of Chism inside the high school on the day Colleen died. The prosecutor narrated the defendant's actions, from Chism struggling to push the recycling barrel out of the bathroom to the teenager eating a snack after the killing. While 17 jurors attended the trial, 12 were randomly chosen to deliberate Chism's fate. The jury consisted of 8 men and 4 women. However, they were unable to reach a verdict on the first day. Philip Chism was eventually sentenced to life in prison for first-degree murder and received 2 concurrent 40-year sentences for rape and armed robbery at Salem Superior Court on February 26, 2016. The high school student was kept in DYS custody until he reached 18, and because he was a juvenile, he is eligible for parole on the murder charge in 25 years, but is not eligible for parole on the rape and armed robbery charges. It means he will stay behind bars for at least 40 years. Chism sat in court wearing a dark-colored suit and glasses and showed no reaction or emotion before the sentencing. Following the verdict, Colleen's mother stated, "We are devastated and feel betrayed with Judge Lowy's inability to give 3 consecutive life sentences without the eligibility of parole to the individual that took Colleen's life in such a horrific manner. We are disgusted and personally offended with the defense's repulsive recommendation that Colleen's killer be parole eligible within 15 years, therefore putting him back into society at age 29 to kill again. The defense's legal maneuvering is despicable and demonstrates utmost disrespect for our daughter and sister Colleen's life. Evil cannot be rehabilitated. she said. Essex District Attorney Jonathan Blodgett said that because of the Supreme Judicial Court decision to eliminate life without parole for juvenile offenders, the Ritzer family must be prepared to testify at parole hearings beginning in 40 years, and then every 5 years thereafter. The law, Blodgett said, will cost Ritzer's family the closure they seek. Judge David Lowy said his decision was based on law, not emotion. He explained that the law required him to consider age and brain development in his sentencing. No amount of prison time will even be enough to be commensurate with this crime, Lowy said, noting the court must consider that there is always the possibility of redemption. Philip Chism requested a new murder trial in the fall of 2024, but on February 25, 2025, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court denied the appeal. His lawyers argued that the judge incorrectly excluded expert testimony on brain scans that they say would have shown he had a mental illness. They also said the evidence leading to rape and robbery convictions was legally insufficient. Associate Justice Frank Gaziano announced that none of the asserted errors, standing alone or cumulatively, requires a new trial, and that there is no other basis on which to disturb the jury's verdict. While Chism was handed a lengthy sentence, he was sentenced again to 17 to 20 years in state prison for the 2014 attack on a 29-year-old female clinician at the Department of Youth Services Detention Center in Boston. CBS News wrote that he was accused of sneaking into a staff locker room bathroom and trying to choke and kill the woman. After other employees came to the woman's rescue and freed her, Chism repeatedly yelled, "I'm gonna kill them all." His victim wrote in her statement, "True monsters exist out in the world. Philip Chism is a monster, a murderer. I have no doubt that his intention was to beat me into submission and eventually kill me." Chism's face sometimes still haunts me, that lack of any emotion, just ready to kill.